Good evening, class. We're going to continue our lecture series in the role of the design professional for lesson number 12, Professional Licensure and Ethics. And this evening we'll cover the principles surrounding that topic of discussion. So let's take a look at our class. Our class, spring 2020, we have 27 civil engineers, 5 construction engineering management, and 5 environmental/water or geotechnical. How many of you plan on obtaining your license after your education? Well, I hope most of you say yes, because there's lots of reasons for it. One is it's a requirement of the profession. Now, it doesn't mean you have to. If you're going to go to get thrown in jail because you don't get your license, that's not what it's about. But it's something you want to pursue as you continue to improve your level of experience and certifications. As you can see here, I've got my civil and my land surveying experience. There are financial rewards that come with it, recognized by your employers. And then there's also the professional recognition among your peers and professional prestige. It doesn't necessarily have to stop there. I recently got my contractor's Class A licensed contractor certification. And these are things that continue to distinguish you differently from the folks as you're competing for that job application that you're after. So let's talk about our homework. And it's going to go back into some of the California codes and really under the definition of responsible charge. So can you, as a licensed engineer, sign plans outside your area of competence if it is performed by others who are competent? Well, the Professional Engineers Act is pretty clear about responsible charge, and it means that you have to exercise independent control and direction. You can't just rely on somebody who said, yeah, it's good because I said so. You need to have that experience base. So generally, you shouldn't be signing for plans that you do not have expertise in, even if it's by work is performed by others that are more competent. How about signing plans with new principles or technology? Generally, if you understand those principles or those technologies and you have reviewed it, then yes, you should be able to sign, but be careful. And then may you sign plans within your area of competence if it's performed by a person not fully competent? And the answer to that should be yes, because subordinates report to you as the responsible person. I mean, even if you were using an intern does not necessarily have all the experience in the world, but they're under the guidance and the oversight of that professional engineer. So the answers are from first, second, and third, generally no, yes, but be careful, and third, yes, you can. Let's talk about the categories of professional engineer, what I call the PTA. The Practice Act, which is those who offer practice within an area. Title Act, which you may use the title having passed a certain exam. And the Authority Act, which is a proficiency in that field that goes beyond just your basic civil engineering licensing. So under the Practices Act, there's 3 licenses that apply: civil, mechanical, and electrical, according to the California Business and Professions Code as outlined on this slide. The Title Act licenses, there's 10 of them. I've highlighted traffic because traffic is the one that's very close to civil engineering and the principles that are used therein. And so the Title Act license is something that could help if you're pursuing additional certifications. And then under the third category of Authority Act, there's 3 different areas of authority. 2 of them are virtually the same, but it's soils and geotechnical, which are interchangeable, and then structural. Now, what are the requirements for obtaining professional licensing? I call these the 4 E's: education, experience, exam passage, and the exam passage can take a number of various levels. So there's the national exam, the principles and practices of engineering, structural engineering, fundamentals that involve LSIT or EIT, as we've referenced up above. And then, of course, there's architecture as well. And then the 4th E is expenditure. The state wants your money each time you take an exam. And then once you have that licensing, they want you to continue to pay for annual renewals. So the EIT requires 3 years of post-secondary engineering education, which is basically after your high school education. And that's hopefully most of you in the class. And if you're pursuing your LSIT, 2 years of post-secondary engineering education is required. You need to submit an application and pass the exam. And this is the flow chart for how you would navigate through that process. For the professional engineer and professional licensed land surveyor, 6 years of equivalent work experience, where 4 of those would be from an approved accredited curriculum, 2 years of work experience, and 1 of those may be qualified with a postgraduate or master's degree curriculum. But the sum of your education that qualifies cannot be more than 5 years. You must hold a valid EIT or LSIT in order to take these national exams. And for the civil engineering exam, you're going to have not only the national exam, but you'll have 3 other exams that follow. One is the seismic, the second is land surveying, and then the take-home exam, which is based on law. And after paying appropriate fees, if you do everything well, you can get licensed. This flow chart, though it looks confusing, is really just a decision matrix for whether or not you qualify for that exam. Under the professional engineer, there's 3 methods of licensing, and I would say professional engineer or land surveyor. In this first flow chart, or the top one, it's for all branches of engineering except for civil. It's basically apply for the exam, take the exam, and you get licensing. Whereas under civil, which is the second flow chart, it's take the exam plus the additional levels of examination that we talked about earlier with the 3 other tests. And then you can get licensing if you successfully pass. And then the professional license land surveyor exam has a similar flow chart to the other branches of engineering. Note that when you take the exam, passing it is not an easy effort. You can see that the pass rates for various emphasis of the civil exam range from 28% to 44%, so study hard. The authority license requirements. So for taking the structural exam, you've got to hold a civil engineering license and then have 3 years of additional work experience, plus passing a 16-hour exam. For geotechnical, so that you can fix things like the Leaning Tower of Pisa in Italy, and yes, it's still leaning. We tried to fix it last time we were there and it didn't work too well. But you have to hold a valid license and have 4 years of additional work experience and then pass the exam. License oversight in California is by the Department of Consumer Affairs. It's the Board of Engineers of Land Surveyors and Geologists, 15 board members. 8 are public at large members, not necessarily licensed. The other 7 must be licensed in the various branches of licensing and certification. Now one might ask, why would they do that? Because we want representation, not only from the industry, but we want to have public oversight. So it's not necessarily just a club that's controlled by those who are licensed. And that's why we would do that. And with that, we are done with the principles oversight. And so look forward to having you at the next video.